What's up, guys? So today I'm going to be doing a review on the Victory 4x4 rack for the 2019 and up Toyota RAV4s. I'm actually going to put it on my RAV4, which is outside right now, but first we're going to do the unboxing. Fortunately, as you can tell, FedEx actually started part of the unboxing for me, but we'll get to it here in a sec. We'll take it all out and see what it looks like. They've done a really good job of doing an install video, so I'm not going to show you the installation because pretty much I'm just going to follow their video. If I run into any other tricks or kind of hiccups, I'll definitely post those. But as far as installation video goes, just go ahead and check theirs out. This end is already busted open. I'm just gonna come through here. Looks like a lot of the staples are already off as well. This thing barely held it together, but I got some tape. Obviously, whenever you're using a razor blade, just be very careful, don't cut yourself. Okay, I got some more tape right here. Just pull back and see what we got. Awesome. So for the first thing you want to do, guys, before you start taking your car apart, take the headliner down, all that good stuff, make sure to come through here and that you have all the pieces. Obviously, just from the reviews I've been reading, they seem to be doing a pretty good job, but we're all human, right? So you always want to make sure before you take your vehicle apart that everything you need is going to be here. So it looks like we have our two side rails. Okay, looks good. I'm kind of excited to get this over with. Okay, little foam insulation. All right, what else do we got in here? Okay, it looks like we have the front, the wind dam, the back piece. All right, it looks like we have our crossbars. Okay, and then I'll set these. They're pretty stuck in the foam, so I'll cut them out here in a bit. And we have another box, which I'm going to assume is the hardware. I'll just set this over here to the side. Or not a razor blade. Okay. So we have the strip that goes on the front and the back where it's going to make contact with the vehicle. Got the bolt kit. It's actually going to say how many of each there is. They send out, they say stainless steel, they're silver colored. Honestly, I wanted to do blue, but since I don't want to wait to install this thing, I'm probably just gonna use silver and I'll figure it out later. They do offer a blackout kit. I think it's like 45 bucks. Let's see, what else do we have back here? The install brackets, right? The ones that go onto the actual roof itself. Man, they really went to town with the wrap on these suckers. Okay. So we have these two brackets. That's neat. These, what do they say? Same thing, RAV 5254. So it's going to be the bracket count. That's what I'm going to assume. It's funny how RAV5. Cool. Either way. Oh, we got some more bolts. Awesome. Okay. I guess we'll figure out which ones these go to and why they're separate. If I had to guess, I'm guessing these are going to be the ones that you actually use to mount directly to the roof, and these are going to be the ones to put the rack together. And then we have stickers. Yes. The one tip I will give you while you're getting all your parts together, I took the big bag of hardware, right? And I always separate all the screws and bolts and all that, especially if they're gonna be different sizes. And you kind of get a rough idea of what goes with what. For example, all these, there's so many of them. There's a bunch of these. These are probably gonna be the ones I use for the crossbars and assembling the rack. These bigger ones, I'm gonna guess, go with these washers. And these longer ones, I'll figure that out later. But you just kind of get a rough idea of, number one, if you have like an even amount of hardware, like these little bitty ones, there's 4 and 4 with these T's, so those probably go together, and then a bunch of that. So just kind of do that. They do include this little barcode scan thing, so you can check out their install video. But yeah, that's tip number 1 for you right now, is get all your hardware together and kind of organize it. I'm going to go through and actually put all the washers on the bolts before I start assembling. All right, guys, tip number 2, whenever you're assembling the front and back, you're actually gonna have to use these nuts, right? And so if you look closely, let me see if I can get the focus right. It's got like little teeth And so really what you're doing is whenever you install these, I'll just spin this really quick, but once it gets set on the metal, you're gonna want to actually start tightening the bolt itself, just because this is gonna dig into the metal. If you turn this, it's gonna just scrape off that the coating on top, the powder coat, okay? There's little tricks like that. So if you can hold this with your hand, with the wrench, whatever, just whenever you're actually tightening it, you're gonna be tightening the bolt, not the nut. All right, guys, one note that I'm gonna make, maybe the guys over at Victory 4x4 watch this, maybe they can change their design a little bit, is one thing you know, if you guys follow my build page on RAV4 World, you'll know that I actually bought a Vanguard rack before this one, and I didn't like a whole lot of things. I ended up returning it. One of the things I didn't like about that one, and that the same thing kind of happens with this one, whenever you put the bolt through, as you can see, it doesn't sit completely flush. There's a little gap, and what's happening is actually the bolt head is hitting this wall, which kind of sucks. I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal. I'm hoping whenever I tighten it down, it's gonna bring it down. The guys at Victory, if you guys just bring those cutouts just a hair up, it's gonna allow the edge of that bolt to kind of fall in place and sit flat. The other thing that is, you know, even on the video, they really didn't mention a whole lot of stuff, detail. They just show you how to install it. They didn't mention like the bolt package and stuff like that. One thing I was curious is, you got two separate bags of hardware, right? One's obviously to build the rack. The other one is to mount it to the roof of the car. One interesting thing that I noticed is that on the one to mount it to the car, they provide this bolt and a lock nut. Okay, go together. On the hardware for the rack, they provide these longer bolts that look very similar, but they're different thread size. So I was kind of curious as to why they would do that, just because, you know, I don't think you're going to use all of them. I think you're going to end with a little bit extra hardware, which is fine. But one thing I noticed is that the ones that came with the bag that's marked like that actually fit the threads of the factory Toyota nuts. And so if I can, honestly guys, seeing as how this nut has a bigger little flange, it's got more surface area to it, I'm probably gonna end up using these instead of the ones that came with the kit, the little separate baggie that I think is specific to the RAV4 to mount it to the roof. With the kit that you get, they give you these little push-ins to cover up the holes that are left over, right? They say in the video they snap in. These don't really snap in, they're not very big. So I actually went to AutoZone and I picked up these body panel retainers, because all essentially what you're doing is you're using this to cover up the hole and using silicone underneath to seal it. It's gonna have a little bit bigger surface area, and I think it's gonna work out a little bit better. Alright, so now that we have our roof rack completely assembled, this is the part where I'd actually pull the RAV into the garage and start bringing the headliner down. One more thing on the trim lock. And so they actually include enough trim lock to do the front. So it's gonna make contact along here. As you can tell, it's a trim lock that's got it's like the actual lock part, and then it's got like a little foam part. They do enough to do that part and enough to do these back corners. Whenever you cut it, it's got individual aluminum little pieces. If for some reason any of that little aluminum is hanging out the edge, you can actually pull those sections out. The last thing you're gonna do is have like any of the little silver parts showing, okay? Because you don't want it to actually fall out and scratch your paint or anything like that. And I do think they mentioned that in the video. Another thing they actually recommend as well is tape to protect the paint whenever you do set the roof rack on the vehicle. What I did, I wanted to buy like a roll of it, you know, like you just buy tape. I guess you can't do that. So I actually bought some Laminate stuff that's for door guards. And I just found like the longest piece available I could find, which is for a Subaru WRX. As you can see there, it's like 28 inches, 38 inches, 2 strips. So I think that should be enough to cover the front and back where it's making contact. This was like 12, 13 bucks. They say it's best to do it. It is clear. And honestly, guys, for 13 bucks, you might as well do it. All right, guys, next tip. When you're removing these little plastic pieces, the guy in the video, you know, uses a 90-degree pick, which I think is awesome. It definitely works. Not all of them come out as easy as the others for some reason. What I found works the best is if you can tell the way the actual clip is set up, it comes together, you know, it pinches. So instead of just like hooking it and pulling back, try to get some leverage and pry it open, because what you're doing is you're prying these little teeth open, okay? So whenever you pull, if you pull straight back, there's a really good chance your pick's gonna slip out and stab you in the hand, which I already did once. But if you hook in here and the little slot that's there and kind of pivot it and open that out a little bit, it's gonna make it a lot easier for it to come out. And do one side at a time, just little by little, kind of wiggle it out. Okay, next part is, in the video, he just kind of pulls on the handle, which I'm sure you can do. But what I find kind of a little easier is if when you're pulling, press these tabs down, right? You see like there's two tabs. So I'm gonna press this one down while I'm pulling and keeping tension on it, and then press this one up, and the plastic handle will come off. And then you can pull the clip out and just squeeze the clip. So let me see if I can do it with one hand. There's one. Actually, you can actually see that one just came out and it's pretty easy. And so I'll do the other side now. Like that, put some tension on it, try to grab this bottom one, and it comes out. Little metal clips stay in, you just pinch them and kind of maneuver them out. All right, guys, when you guys are doing the pillars where the airbags are at, with your pry tool, you're just gonna give yourself enough room to get your hand up in here, okay? Don't try to completely pop this off with your pry tool, because you'll end up messing up the plastic or possibly messing up the headliner. Once you do get it popped off, these clips, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, these clips kind of suck. They have a tab on top and they have a tab on the bottom. From what I'm doing is I'm actually pinching the top tab with my finger, but the bottom tab, I'm kind of reaching underneath the airbag right here and getting it to it that way, as you can see right there where it's at. And that's the easiest way I found. Either way, it isn't the easiest thing to do, but it is possible, guys. Just take your time with it. All right, guys, another tip, which I go ahead and apologize. This video is meant more to be a review than an installation video. I'm kind of thinking maybe I should have made it a more detailed installation video. But anyways, whenever you're pulling the plastic panels, make sure that these little push-ins come out with the panel. If they don't, they stay stuck in here, you're actually gonna have to remove that and go ahead and hook them back on. I always do this. If I notice that one stays, I always immediately do it, because it's something that's really easy to forget later on to do. When you go to put this panel on, it's not going to go on all the way. Okay, guys, so I have the rack set up. It's definitely a two-person job. We did some adjustments on it. Everything's sitting good. Silicone's drying now. I am actually setting, so in the video, they recommend that you put down some clear tape or clear paint protection tape. So what I'm doing now is I've loosened these bolts, right? I've brought this all the way down to where I want it. And I'm gonna go and I laid painter's tape down on the edge of it. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna mark where it's making contacts on the ends. And that way, whenever I lift this up out of the way, I have a pretty good idea of where I need to lay my tape down. And so now with my wind dam up out of the way, as you can tell, my marks are there. I know I just need to start my piece of tape. I'll probably start it, since it is clear, I'll probably start like a few inches back. But I have a pretty straight line of where I can lay my tape down. I can show you in the back. I've already done that. Obviously the tape is clear, so you can't really see it a whole lot, but there is tape under there and it came out pretty nice. Guys, whenever you're reassembling everything, make sure that the headliner tucks in to where it needs to tuck in. For example, the molding that goes around the edge of the doors, you know, it tucks in up there. Also, this is kind of important. I didn't see anyone mention this in any of their videos. Hopefully I could show you, because it's kind of dark already. Let's see if I can get a light in here. So the reason you need to pull this molding back and leave it out before you install your panel is that these plastic tabs will actually sit flush with that metal piece, and then the molding will hold both of them together. Okay, so make sure that you pull the molding off on both sides. So that I'm in the back seat right now, this side and that side, and then clip your panel in and then put your molding back on. And that way the molding is actually kind of pinching these tabs right here. Roof rack is on. So for the silicone to fully cure, it usually takes about 24 hours. So after that, it's probably tomorrow sometime. I'm gonna like spray some water, make sure I don't have any leaks. But overall, I'm actually pretty happy with the rack. It looks awesome. I haven't driven it yet, so I need to go see how loud it is. One thing about the installation is everything went pretty smooth, but I did end up with a lot of extra hardware, which you might as well. So don't feel like you went and missed something. Let me show you what all I had extra. Okay, so from this bag, I had quite a few left over. These are little T-nuts. That's for mounting accessories. Conveniently, these fit on there as well. So I'm guessing that you use these for the T-nuts as well. Extra washers, the actual screws that you use to put this rack together. And then from the other little bag that I was assuming was going to be, for the most part, it was for mounting the rack to the RAV itself. I didn't use these. These were really small. And what's kind of funny is I was laughing because you watch the video, and in the video, it's a really loud snap, which I'm assuming they added in afterwards when they did editing, which is fine, whatever. Because you really, the silicone is going to hold these down. But I ended up using little Christmas trees instead, which I showed earlier in the video. These little guys. I actually snipped them. I snipped them like around there and just kind of used it, just a little bit more surface area. Some of these look like the nuts, nylon nuts. These, the reason I have extras of these as well is because I actually used the longer bolts from this kit and my factory nuts that are a lot, like they have like a bigger bottom on them. So that's why I have a few extras of these as well. And then a few extras of the locking nuts. It isn't a big deal. Honestly, guys, it's better to have extra hardware than to be missing something, which sucks. All right, guys, we're gonna test drive this sucker real quick, see how much wind noise we get. Try to get up to about 60 miles an hour or so. It is pretty windy today too, so we'll get a really good idea real quick. So we actually hit 70 right there. Definitely a lot more wind noise than not having a rack, but unlike the Vanguard, which is absolutely terrible, my roof and whole car really isn't shaking like crazy whenever I'm driving, which was the biggest issue with that thing. So right now we were actually driving against the wind, so that gives you a really good idea of pretty much like the maximum amount of wind noise you're gonna get. Let's give you a nice little pass right now. Not bad at all, not bad at all. So right now we're going with the wind. Definitely not bad. If you bought this car for it to be quiet or like a luxury, I don't know that you should add a rack at all. But if you drive, like I have a truck that's used to be my daily driver. Now this is my daily, but it's perfect. It's spot on. Definitely not that bad. If you have music going, you're not gonna hear it, probably. If you do, just turn the music up, right? So overall, guys, I'm actually really happy with this rack. I tried the Vanguard one, absolutely hated it enough to where I actually returned it. I would not recommend that rack to anybody. This thing is pretty sweet, and they just came out with it, so I was kind of expecting to actually have to do a little more work than I actually did. But overall, it wasn't bad. There are a few things that I would say would need improve. The brackets, like I said, I could make them work. It wasn't that hard to make them work. That's definitely something they could improve on, right? That way that bolt sits a lot flush. You don't have to sit there and grind on it. Other thing is their instructions, the video isn't the worst, but it's not necessarily geared towards people that don't work on their cars a lot. So like if you do a lot of automotive work or you work on cars or you're mechanically inclined, you'll probably be fine with the installation video. If you've done some interior work, you know how plastic panels work, you're good. But if you've never done it before or you're just getting into it, the video lacks a little bit. Hopefully the tips I included in this one will help you a little bit. I kind of wish I would have done a whole video instead, but it is what it is. I'm already done. I'm not going to take the whole rack apart either. The other little thing would be, I kind of personally really like rubber gaskets. You know, you use silicone on here, and I think even for the Prinsu one, which is the same price range and pretty much like the closest competition to this, uses the same kind of idea. That's just me, right? I understand if they do custom rubber gaskets or whatnot, it's gonna increase the price of the rack. I think the rack right now runs around $750 or so, right? It's pretty cool. I think they do free shipping a lot of the time, but I don't know. The other thing I would improve is the Prinsu, I believe, comes with black bolts. This is nitpicking it, but this one comes with silver. There is an upgraded black bolt kit, but it's an additional $45, which is, I mean, you know, usually the safest bet is to go with black anyways. But again, I can see definitely they are stainless steel bolts, so it'd be a little bit more expensive to get them coated and colored. I might do something with mine. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But overall, like I said, really, really happy. It's awesome. I love the way that it looks. And if you want to see more pictures of it, it's kind of dark right now, but if you want to see more pictures of it, I'll include my Instagram page where I usually post all the pictures. And then I'll also include a direct link to my build page over on rav4world.com. Hopefully this helps you out, guys. If you're looking at a rack, I definitely recommend the Victory 4x41. They're awesome. Their customer service is great. Every time I call and talk to them, super helpful. Definitely recommend it, and can't wait to put this thing to use.